Hi, it's Hella from Dawn Emporium. This video, it's a bit of a weird one really. I'm going to be talking about my gynecological heroines. Yeah, because we all need weird women to look up to. Well, women to look up to for weird things. That would be the best way to put it. Now, there should be a whole list of names that I can reel off, but I can only actually name 3. Lucy, Anarcha, Betsey. If you know much about gynecology, you might know their names. If you don't, they're 3 slaves. Now, they got the rough end of slavery, and believe it or not, there is a rough end of slavery. These 3 women, amongst many others, whose names are lost to time, lived and worked around Montgomery, Alabama, and that's where their lives took a turn for the worse, because yes, there is something worse than just being a slave, and that is being tortured in the name of science or medicine, medical science. Lucy was just 18 years old and had given birth a few months prior and hadn't been able to control her bladder since, and that made her less profitable for her owners, because a female slave had to not only work, she had to breed. A male slave had to work, but he didn't have to keep the chain going, so to put it away. I don't know a nice way to put it. He didn't have to spat out children. Now, a doctor had already moved into the area by the time her troubles began, and he was doing something groundbreaking at the time, because in medicine you didn't get taught gynecology. In fact, working on a woman's private parts was classed as offensive and unsavoury. And like most of the doctors at the time, this doctor had no interest in gynecological issues, none. So yeah, why would he be bothered? Then a patient fell off a horse, and she was having back pain and pains around that area, and he found out that she had something called a vesicovaginal fistula. After getting her to rest on all fours and using his fingers and the bent handle of a spoon to see what was happening inside. Now, there were no cures for such ailments back then, and that's where the horror story of modern gynecology begins, and where Lucy, Anarcha and Betsey and all the others come into it. So back to Lucy. She, along with the other patients operated on, was stripped completely naked, because she was a slave, she didn't matter. Asked to perch on her knees, with her elbows on her knees and her head on her hands, and endured an hour-long surgery with no pain relief, screaming and crying in agony as nearly a dozen doctors looked on at her surgery. Now, the surgeon later wrote, Lucy's agony was extreme. Really? Can't think why. Now, this is the thing. Back then, it was a commonly held belief that as high melanin people were only 3/5 of a human, they didn't feel pain the same way as paler folk. Yeah, in fact, in medicine these days, it's still harder to get a doctor, any doctor, even if they have the same melanin levels as you, to believe how much pain you're in if you have higher levels of melanin. How disgusting is that? Yeah. So, yeah, that's a lovely way to be. She later got blood poisoning because said doctor used a sponge to drain her bladder and took 3 months to recover from her operation. 3 months. Anarcha was only 17 when she went through a traumatic labour and delivery which left her with a fistula. It was on her that he perfected his method over the course of 4 years and 30 operations. Can you imagine that? Over 4 years, from 17 to 21, this girl had 30 operations with no anaesthetic and dozens of doctors watching. Can you even for a moment imagine that? Yeah. And how he got away with it is, the doctor this is he would get the owners to sign over ownership, but get the owners to still pay the taxes on the slaves so that he could perform his surgeries until they were better, or as near as he could make them, until he perfected it. Yeah, so they were his slaves. And then as soon as they were better, that's it, they were back to their owners. Yeah, lovely. So, yeah. Now, I can't actually find anything about Betsey's operations, but she would have had to have gone through the same as Lucy and Anarcha did, and probably at a similar age. Now, the doctor, he's famous. People thank him. In fairness, he made certain operations a thing, and he made the modern speculum a thing. So every time you have a smear test, you can thank him. Every time you've had an operation after you've had a traumatic labour, you can probably thank him. Things like that. But people seem to forget the slaves that went through that kind of agony so that we can live our modern life. And not only did they go through that agony, they went through it without pain relief because they were just slaves. They weren't even human. Well, not fully human, 3/5. I'm still trying to work out how they were 3/5 of a human, but times change. Yeah, he would have been nothing without those slave women. Lucy, Anarcha, and Betsey. And a lot of women out there, without even realising it, owe the fact that after giving birth, they can now hold their bladders just a little bit, just enough to make it to the loo because of them, or various other things. And we've got to make their suffering worthwhile, because like I mentioned before, if you're high melanin, you're still less likely to be believed by a doctor for the amount of pain that you're in. That is wrong. Even if they are the same shade of human as you, they're less likely to believe that you are in pain. That needs changing. What else needs changing is, why are so many women afraid of having their smears? Why? Honestly, you need to think about this. The people who do those, they're not judging, well, they're not judging you, they're judging cancer. So, they are judging, but not you. These women didn't go through all of that so that you can be afraid to find out if you've got cancer, so that a doctor won't believe your next door neighbour when he says he's got so much pain. Those women, and I'm sure there were countless other experiments like that, deserve to go down and be remembered as the women who accidentally changed history from now. You know, we need to make sure that it doesn't matter what your skin tone is. If you go in and say, I'm in pain, a doctor goes, where? How bad? And doesn't question anything else. Or if you get a letter through saying that you need to go for a checkup, you go for that checkup. You don't talk yourself out of it. Oh, it won't be me, it won't be me. Because it could be you. This time, next time, the time after. Those women lived horrific lives anyway. And then they got used for experiments. On top of being slaves. And then they've been forgotten, well, all but forgotten to time. But the doctor, he did all this. Some people still laud him as like a father of modern medicine. He's not a father of modern medicine. That's why I've not mentioned his name. Right? Yeah, he did good things. But he did them in such a despicable way. That's like saying that, like, what was his name? The crazy Nazi doctor did good things. You wouldn't, would you? You know, you just wouldn't. You'd just sit there and go, that was horrific, and walk away. You don't sit there and go, no, actually, he found out about the bonds between twins and that you can't make people into conjoined twins. You know, you don't hear that, do you? No, because he was a monster. This man was a monster. Yet they both learnt things that are part of medicine now. So why is one lauded and one hated? Because this man should be hated just as much as crazy Nazi. It's true though. It's all right saying this, that and the other, but it's true. How many people did he actually operate on? He had a lifetime of this. A lifetime. In fact, the whole reason why he moved to Montgomery was because his first two patients died. And then he goes to Alabama and starts operating randomly on slaves. Lovely. All right. Speak soon. Bye.